Yo, what's up guys, it's Haney Design, and I'm finna show y'all how y'all can make this picture right here in Photoshop. Alright, so the first thing I did, I added in this sky background right here. I just went to Google, I looked up stormy sky, and I just put it in right here. And then I looked up a picture of a field, a grass field on Google, and all I did was took an eraser on it, lowered the softness all the way down, and just erased over top of it like this. And then I added a hue and saturation to the sky to make it a little bit more gray. Next, I added brightness and contrast, clipping mask to the grass, and I just made the brightness -77. But I took my black brush right here and I painted right here to make this part of the grass a little bit brighter. And then I took my hue and saturation and I just turned out my saturation a lot to -68 to where it matched up kind of with the color of the sky. And I just took a curves layer and just turned down the highlights and turned up the shadows a little bit. Okay. Next, I added this fog here. All I did was grab a brush. I pressed Alt on the keyboard and grabbed just like a medium color from the sky. I have my opacity at 100 and my flow at 9. Made my brush kind of big right here and just paint over it to create some fog like that. Next, I just took a white with my brush, kept it on about 50, painted in with a white on all these. You can see all these let me show you all these parts in the cloud where there's no clouds really. Right here, right here, right here, right here, right over here. I just painted in those right there and I put it on screen so it creates some lighting. And then I had a picture of the Longhorn Stadium, and it was like obviously like the field right here and then the sky and everything like that. So all I did was took the polygonal lasso tool, press L on the keyboard, and I cut out all right here, and then I cut out all right here, cut the field out, so all we're left with is the stadium. And then I took an eraser, soft, turn the flow down, and then erase the edges just like this so it blends in with the sky, so it just looks like it's in the foreground a lot. And I also added a slight blur to it. Next thing I did was I added this longhorn in the back, and you can see I also erased its feet a little bit because we're gonna add smoke over it, so it looks like it's in the foreground a little bit more. And then I made it darker, and the highlights coming from this direction. So all I did was I put an exposure layer over it, and then I clicked on my white mask or black mask, and then I just paint around the edges. Right. Then next, I added this other longhorn over here. See, I kind of missed this. It's whatever though. And added an exposure layer, just made them darker. And I also added some highlights. You can see like right here, all the way over here on this back, everything like that. Here, I added a color fill, and I made the color fill be a neutral color from the sky again. And I put my flow at 9, clicked on this part of the mask right here, and just painted over with my white brush. Just painted over and created that fog. Next, I looked up oak tree PNG on Google, and masking out trees is very difficult, so this took a long time. Just taking my eraser tool, turning the hardness up a little bit. Obviously you can see I didn't get everything. It's like it was gonna take forever. You can't really tell in the final product though unless you like really focus on it, but I just literally did this for a lot of the tree, and I know there's probably better ways that I just don't know about, but yeah, that's basically what I did. And I added a hue and saturation to the tree. All you do is just you go on the tree, adjustments, hue and saturation right here, and you're gonna wanna, let me see, lower the saturation. I lowered it to -52. Then I put a curves layer on. I just lowered the highlights a little bit. Next, color balance. Didn't really affect the tree too much. I'll just try to add some yellows in there. And then for the color fill, again, we added more smoke to the cow, same method as before, and we put it over the tree as well. And then we just added some more subtle. You can see like I lower my flow and my opacity every time, so I'm just kind of fading it in. Next, we added this main longhorn right here. And I don't have any of those like fancy grass brushes, if you know what I'm talking about. So all I do is I put my hardness all the way up. I make my brush very small because obviously he had like feet in the beginning, and I just go like this, sort of just go like that throughout the thing, so it looks like his. Maybe make my brush smaller, you know, you get it, and just paint over it just like this. So that's what I do to make it look like he's standing in the grass, you know. And then added this exposure layer. Once I added the exposure layer, I put it on -6, and I took my brush, turned the flow down, kept the opacity at 100, and put it on black. And I just painted in where the light would be hitting him, especially like right here on the horns, hitting him right there on the side of the face. And you just have to know where the lighting is going to be at, really. It's all about the picture and where the lighting is coming from. Next, I chose a hue and saturation layer, clipping masked it to the longhorn, and made it +81. Just the lightness, turned it up +81. And what that does is, if I control I on it, or hold on, control I, it's just gonna make the entire cow white, right? So if I press control I, and then I have my white brush, I go on the very outside of the cow, and I just paint in very softly with a high flow, high opacity, like 100, small brush, just paint in like right here, so it looks like the light is like directly hitting him. Next, for my brightness and contrast, I just turned up my brightness all the way up, and I took my white brush with a low flow and just colored right here so it has some of that glowy effect. Next, what I did was added my shadow for the cow, or the longhorn, my fault. All I did was press Control J on this longhorn right here to duplicate it, and then Control T, right click, flip vertical, and then drag it below to where it's you see these feet right here matching up with his feet, so it makes a little bit more sense. And I added some perspective onto this one, so Control T, perspective, and you go down to right here, you just drag these out. And then what I did was color overlay. You can see right here, you just double click, color overlay, make them black, and then go up to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, opacity down to 25, and it should look pretty good. Right here, his horn was cut off, so I just kind of painted it back in manually. Hold on. Oh yeah, I had to do some modifications. I'll show y'all. Alright, I added the, let me see, I added the player right here, but I messed up. I cut off his leg right there, so all I did was just painted it back on. And for the player, obviously we had a full picture of him, and I lowered his opacity, and I just painted where it would go. And then when it got to his other leg, to make it seem like he's sitting around or on top of it, I just erased the bull only, or where the bull is, and then we got this look right here. So let me see. For this color fill, we just added a light fog in the foreground right here. Right here, all I did, black brush under the player, and I painted some shadows right here, just mess with opacity and flow on that, and if you think it looks good, then you know. For here, I went to levels and I just turned down his brightness. Here on exposure, you can see I only did exposure on one side, and also on levels I left the very edge of him where the light's hitting, so I just painted on the mask only where the shadows would be. On the exposure, I have it on -4.33. I take my white brush and I just paint low opacity on this side of him, so it seems like the side furthest from the light has a lot of shadows, which is how it should be. Let me see. This first hue and saturation you can't really tell, but I added a white line around him. You kind of tell it there, not really though. But next, brightness and contrast, I added that glowy effect again, same way we did before, just white brush, just paint it on. You know how it goes. Next, this is basically the final product. So next we just kind of made a few critiques, like what I like to do after I'm done with my photoshops is I'll go on Instagram, and there's a few people I really like their designs, so I ask them, I'll send them the picture before I post it and say, hey, what do you think I should change, what do you think I should do different on this picture, and they'll give me some input. So what they told me was these cows back here were too transparent, this fog was too heavy, and the shadow on the bull or the longhorn needed some work. So that's what I fixed in this picture, as you can see. And then for this gradient map, it's kind of like some color grading, gives us some vintagey cowboy, I guess, look. What I did, let's just hold on, let's turn this off. So for this color right here, this very dark color, I took the darkest color like down here, and I wanted it to be 4 colors, right? So for the next color, I took a lighter color, like a medium color, which is like right here, I would say. Then for this color, it's kind of lighter, so I just click on it, go down here, and I click like somewhere on the grass. And then the last color I did was white, so you can see this kind of gradient right here that involves all the colors from the picture. And if you do that and then put it to soft light, and then mess with the opacity, you should get a cool like color grading thing going on. And yeah, that's how y'all make this picture. Let me know if y'all have any questions or anything like that. Hit up my Instagram, Haney_DZN, and yeah, I'll see y'all.